Hi again, welcome back to the podcast. Adrian here on hosting duty, and Andrew's back with me this week, and we've got a great topic for you today. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Adrian, good to be here again.
Thanks for joining. I like getting you on the podcast and getting some real engineers' viewpoints on some important topics. And we got a doozy today, right? So we're going to be going through how you take a cheap product and turn it into one that's actually high profit. So it's a kind of manufacturing alchemy, right?
It really is. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting topic or exciting topic for many of our young entrepreneurs or curious entrepreneurs who wish, they could take a small product and somehow sell it for a bigger price and make a huge profit. I know there are a lot of industries out there, online marketing, for example, that people are trying to basically build an online shop by buying products from China and selling it in US. But perhaps some of these ideas that we're going to discuss here today is going to actually up their game and give them a better profit margin.
And who doesn't want that? So, I mean, when we're talking about cheap products, and I'm using air quotes for cheap, right? It's not only China, but China's well known that you can buy all sorts of, lower cost, consumer electronics, promotional stuff, maybe sort of almost throwaway products in some ways. And so the question is, right, we've got this huge pool of potential products that we can choose from. And I'm talking, maybe products that already exist on the shelf. And then we're thinking, well, okay, fine. I mean, I can sell 1,000 of these for $1,000, but how do I take this product and how do I convert that into, I don't know, $10,000 or something, right? So I think that's the sort of question that we are actually sometimes asked as well, aren't we?
I think, Adrian, I agree with you. I think that to be able to make a high profit from any product, it's not necessary to start from an expensive product. Expensive products usually have lower profit margin. But if you could come up and find a very interesting low-cost product and then make some changes and improve it perhaps, and then sell it for a high price, I think you'd have a much better profit margin.
Yeah, and when you say an expensive product, by the way, I suppose I'd add, you're kind of talking about maybe very unique or groundbreaking products as well. So, something which you've invented that maybe is quite revolutionary. It probably includes a lot of custom parts and designs and functions that other products don't have. That's the sort of product you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Unless you are an inventor and you have invented a very unique a niche product that doesn't exist in the world, and there is a definite use case and definitely solves a difficult problem. I think that that sort of a product is going to be okay, and you can probably enjoy a really nice high price at the beginning because of the high demand for that niche product that never existed before.
Right.
Case in point, for example, GoPro. At the time GoPro was invented, really, if you recall, Sony camcorders, how big they were, how expensive they were. I think the cheapest camcorder I ever found was like $1,000, and they weighed like a kilo and very bulky and big, and huge batteries and not enough memory. I mean, it was just amazing how big those camcorders were. Here comes all of a sudden GoPro, very small form factor, very portable, affordable, between $300 to $500, and amazing picture quality, much better than any of the Sony versions at the time. So, that's a groundbreaking product, and something like that only happens to products such as GoPro where didn't exist before. Someone invented the idea, and yeah, that you can actually really charge high and it will still sell. However, if you try to come up with ordinary products that doesn't have necessarily huge use case and not a huge high demand, and it doesn't necessarily solves a problem, I think you could run into problems in terms of price increase. On the other hand, I think that I could discuss Walmart case. Walmart basically buys or imports products from China that are extremely low cost. For example, some of the products that they purchase from China will be in the order maybe really cents in a dollar. Like we're talking $1 or $2 or even less. And then they would make some product changes. They call it private labeling. And in doing so, they would improve the product in ways that will be more appealing to the customers. And then they could mark up huge prices. Sometimes $1 goes to $20. $10 goes to $50. Something that costs maybe $5, now they're selling it at $25. So these are the type of price margin or profit margin we're talking about. And I think that is, Walmart being a $3 trillion company right now. I think that's an excellent example of how much money you can make in that sort of market. There is, of course, a drop shipping market as well. And I think Walmart's situation is also mostly drop shipping. But there are young drop shipping entrepreneurs out there that are thinking about, hey, I saw this great product in AliExpress, Alibaba, or some other website, and I really would like to, take that product and scale it up in sales and so forth. But if they don't have much of an engineering and development experience, they really can't turn it into a huge product. I mean, in the short term, of course, they'll have some success maybe, but then, competitors will come along and then, that's it. The profit margin will go down. However, if you come up with that same product and improve it in ways that we're going to discuss here, I think that it's going to keep their sales up and they'll keep, continuing, selling for higher prices and enjoy the profits. So let's talk about some of the things that these investors or entrepreneurs could do. For example, I think you and I talked before, number one thing that they need to do is adding value to this low-cost product. Well, how do you do that? Well, the key to transforming any kind of a cheap product into a high-profit product is doing something or changing something on that product that will, for example, make it more useful or make it more reliable, high quality, or more attractive to the target market, that you're aiming at. One way to increase the value of this product is to bundle it with some other related products and services. For example, if your product is some kind of a fitness related item, right? You could bundle it with diet plan and workout program, and that just would make it a little bit more desirable to customers. They'll look at it and they'll say, "Oh, this is not a bad price." They would kind of justify the higher price point at that time. So I think that's one important thing to do. And making the product appealing or more reliable or high quality is not so hard, or maybe even not so expensive. Perhaps you can call the supplier and say, I want to move this button from here to here. Is it possible? I want to, test this, drop test it, for example, from 1 meter, and let's see what happens. You don't have to do a whole suite of reliability tests. You can just, whatever you think that is more common for that product. Like people are going to drop it a lot. Then just do drop test. And then higher quality. Like, for example, if you think that you bought one and as soon as you were using, the paint was coming off, maybe make a deal with the supplier and say, hey, can you make it a higher quality paint or different kind of paint so that it doesn't come off so easily. But the product itself is great, but the paint quality is not good. So there's a lot of things you could do that, for example, if it was some kind of a pen that is exciting pen, you could come back and say, what about the inserted pen? Can we make this so that people can actually switch it? When the outside of the pen looking great, can we make it reusable so that when they're done, just, change the insert in the pen, the ink insert, and continue using and enjoying that pen. So there's a lot of things in my mind you could do to add value.
It's one of those things for, the entrepreneur. You've got this big array of different products. And of course, if you go to China, if you go to the Canton Fair, everyone's going to be like, yeah, we can make it. We've got it. But how do you actually, how do you communicate these changes to that Chinese supplier? Because they're reliant on you to really direct them as to what you want and what you need. And so you might not even, you might have the idea, I want to take this cheap product and turn it into a high profit product. But how do you get started communicating that? So I think the ideas that you're giving are really a good starting point for that. And I understand why this is number one, because for me, adding value to the product, to the base product seems to me to be probably one of the best ways to start increasing the profit you're going to make on it.
Exactly. I think the first thing that the listeners need to do, if they have this sort of thing in mind, they need to choose the product that they're interested in. They need to find a supplier, for example, from AliExpress or Alibaba. Then they need to contact the supplier. And the next step is very important because most suppliers will not even talk with you if you're just interested in a few pieces, even a few hundred pieces may not be enough for them to talk with you about private labeling or improving the product. So you have to be talking with them in terms of thousands of units minimum. I would say probably anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 units to start with, depending on the cost of the units. Now, if you have a product that they're selling at $1, I think $1,000 to investment on that is, very common. But if you got something that is $10, 10,000 is more likely. The point is, you start talking with them and try to feel how they're dealing with you. Are they interested in negotiating with you or not? And most of the time, the best thing to do is to find or discuss or talk to at least 3 suppliers, minimum 3 suppliers, and then write down sometimes we call it long sheets on the spreadsheet. Put down all the common things that every one of them will do, cost comparison, MOQ, minimum order quantity, cost and price. And then you can basically start comparing all the information from one supplier to another and then determine which one you want to go with. Then, of course, you discuss with the suppliers, what is it that I'm able to improve even if it means, a couple of pennies or a couple of dollar increase in the cost of the product. And they would tell you, they would say, well, the simplest things you can improve is maybe button, move it from here to here, or paint and color, or perhaps battery type so they can last longer. So they will basically tell you all the things that they can. Now, there are some other options for some of our listeners. Suppose that the suppliers are not interested in changing anything in these products. And I'm not saying that we could definitely help or not, because everything dependent on the type of product it is and whether or not we have expertise on those type of products. And so they could talk to us. They could say, we have this product. Can you re-engineer it, change the packaging or change the battery so that it can actually last longer, move the button over here, change the color or material. So we could look at all the requests from our customers, and then we could actually disassemble and tear down that product, and then we could rebuild it per our customer requirement. Again, this is not a guarantee. Basically, a disclaimer here that, we may be able to do it. We may not, depending on type of the product it is, whether or not we're an expert in that area or not. But at least, our customers can talk with us. And we have a whole team of R&D engineers that can evaluate their product and can let them know what it is that we can add value to their product.
Okay, so let's move on to the second then. So that number one, the first way to increase the sort of profit you're going to get from a product is adding value. That's number one. Number two?
Well, number two is, you need to know your target market, and it will be good to have a niche in that market. If you don't have a niche in that market, something different about your product, I think it's going to be difficult for you to sell your product in that market. So if you do have a niche market, this would make your product more enticing and more valuable to your clients, your customers, which again justifies the higher price point. For example, if you're selling phone cases, mobile phone cases, you could target gamers and basically sell it as a gamer phone case. And then you could market it as a phone case that has better grip for gaming and certain gaming artwork, for example, on the case. And some other things that you could do. This would make the product more appealing to the gamers and therefore justifies the higher price.
Yeah, that's good. Any other examples?
Oh, you could come up with a whole bunch of examples. I mean, you could take, for example, a typical camera, that can do videos and audios. And these days you can find a whole bunch of them, right? A lot of cameras out there, like webcams and security cameras. You could take one of those and then add certain features and functionalities that doesn't exist, or you can make it a lot more cheaper or more high quality. You can make it, for example, waterproof, or you can make it solar. You can do a whole bunch of things, but depends. The idea is what niche market you're in. So if your market is camera area, then that's where you're going to add value in terms of making a kind of a camera that just either doesn't exist with the features that you have and functionality you have with the battery or solar, and that would really make your product, shine, and people are willing to pay higher price, even though in reality it's just no different than any other low-cost camera.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. I like these examples of targeting niche markets. And I mean, I suppose the more you appeal to a very specific group of buyers, or customers, the more chance you have of starting to build up that momentum and selling and being able to increase the prices a bit, because it is, specially for them. And again, I'm using air quotes for this.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the point to make here, that by having a niche market, I think you're going to improve the sales and thus improving the revenue. But there's another ways you can actually do, and that's number 3, and that's improving the packaging. Most often, and I'm sure you've seen that most often cheap and the low cost and inexpensive products have very low cost packaging. We're talking like maybe they just put it in a plastic bag or very cheap carton box. So if you take a look at these products and you realize that, wow, the product itself is actually not bad. And if it was in a better packaging, I could probably sell it for, instead of $1, sell it to 5 times more or 10 times more, maybe $10. So if you could be kind of thinking about and envisioning what kind of packaging would make this product stand out, that would make that product eye-catching, look more high quality in terms of the packaging, in terms of graphics that you put on the packaging. For example, you could add bright colors, stylish designs on the package. All you can do, the artwork can be more attractive. All of these would make the product look and feel more valuable and more expensive.
I think the actual material for the packaging as well is important.
Yes.
Like you buy a lot of stuff from, let's say, Amazon, for example, and let's say, I don't know, you've bought a lamp for your living room, right? And it just comes in an unmarked brown carton with, maybe a label on the side that's been stuck there, a shipping label, and you get the lamp out. The lamp's fine, but you're not exactly feeling, wow, this is a really premium product when you've got, this brown box with sort of slightly dented corners after it's been thrown around in the warehouse a million times and whatever. And then let's say, and if you've ever bought an iPhone, for example, in recent years, right? And I'm sure a lot of the listeners have. Right. You get this beautiful, silky, hard, carton with amazing printing on it, and it comes apart, and it feels premium, and that all comes into it, because you're not going to spend, I don't know how much are they now, $1,500 on a new iPhone, and then it comes in an unmarked, ratty old, carton, and people they'd be on the phone to Apple. They'd be like, "What are you doing? This is outrageous." So exactly. It's just the look and the feel of even the packaging, and especially when it's retail packaging, right? Absolutely, right. That speaks to a higher value product, and it can be reflected in prices for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that there is this perceived value in packaging. When I'm opening an iPhone box, as you mentioned, there's a feeling of excitement that, wow, look at this, cardboard. It's like so nice, and how everything has its own place and nicely laid out. Yeah, that definitely adds value, and that perceived value, even if Apple charges more, and the cost of the cardboard, the cost of the box and packaging it's already been included in the price of the product, but the person who purchases that doesn't see it that way. They don't even understand that they paid for that packaging, but they just feel good about it. They feel good about getting a gift, for example, in that package. I think that even if the product was worth more, but the packaging was, like you said, looking more like a bulk product, and you gave that product as a gift, like a birthday present to someone, I don't think they would appreciate that, as opposed to, for example, in an iPhone box or, a packaging such as iPhone, which would definitely please any person. You would get that birthday present.
That's it. How far we've come from several decades ago, Andrew?
Absolutely. Times have changed. I haven't gotten a birthday present for a long time.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, listeners, if you're listening in, feel free to send a card. Make Andrew feel better.
Definitely appreciate any one of our listeners' comments or replies, or if we're doing right, and if they enjoyed any of our blog posts, we definitely would love to hear from them.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, we always love a comment, a question, or a review. And people do email in and ask us questions and say, hey, when are you going to talk about, this topic on the podcast? So if you're thinking of one, let us know. That'd be great. So we've been through numbers 1 to 3 of you've got 5 ideas here. So number 4, upsell and cross-sell.
Yeah. Have you ever been to McDonald's lately and you order a burger and all of a sudden the clerk would ask you, would you like some fries with that? That is basically upsell. And this is actually, some people tell me that this was invented by McDonald's. But whoever invented it's an amazing marketing idea, because half the time, if that clerk doesn't ask me, would you like some fries with that? I probably won't order fries. But as soon as she says that, I feel like, yeah, okay, fine. And that, okay, fine, just adds amazing amount of revenue for an annual basis to McDonald's. And I think this is one of those things that, basically it's a marketing strategy that pretty much you have to keep that in mind. Depending on what your product is and whether or not you can upsell. But let's say you're selling some sort of a mobile phone. You can offer several different kinds of, for example, headsets. You can have AirPods, right? Or you can say, hey, these are the cheaper but still high quality wired versions with microphone, without microphone. So, that's just a simplest form of upsell. But another upsell is basically turning it into some kind of a combo deal. Well, if you buy this with these other itims, you get a couple of them free, or you get a certain discount. And that would definitely entice your customers to buy more and spend more and actually buy that product.
Yeah, if you go online, whenever you're looking, whatever shopping platform it is, if you're trying to buy a product, they're very likely to suggest, other buyers, other customers also buy these items at the same time. So yes. that's a classic. And how many of the millions of lower cost products that you might buy in China, for example, go together with other products?
I think one of the great examples would be like a coffee maker. Here it is, you're in Amazon or anywhere, you buy coffee maker. All of a sudden they come back and say, how about some coffee to make with the coffee maker, and some coffee filters and coffee cups and so on. And honestly, a lot of times, a lot of customers, just so that they don't have to go and buy coffee from somewhere else, they'll say, yeah, why not? Click, 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 and you just sold a whole bunch of products.
And another one I think that's becoming very popular, or more popular these days, is doing some sort of service on a subscription as well. Because we know that a subscription service, let's say it's a software, for example, right? That is an ongoing source of revenue for a business, because once somebody's signed up, they're going to be paying monthly or however often the subscription is for whatever it is. So, I'm thinking things like, exercise products, for example. So you buy the hardware, maybe it's like a running machine or something, but you upsell or cross-sell the subscription to, maybe like a running plan or video or something at the same time. And this also adds value to the whole thing, because it's like, okay, I've got my running machine and that's fine. I can just do what I've got to do on there. But if you're adding, like actual running coaches coaching you how to do stuff, or some sort of exercise program with it, that's adding value, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that upsell is not so unique anymore, but it's amazing how many new entrepreneurs would totally forget about that. I think bundling, packaging, upselling, and thinking about what other things, other products your customer could use with this product that they just bought is an essential thing for increasing your revenue.
Yeah. And okay, I'm mentioning things like running machines. Maybe that's not a low cost product, but But nonetheless, there are definitely ways with even, products that aren't going to cost as much. So on to number 5 then. That's the last one.
Yeah. So the last, I mean, there's a lot of ways to, improve and sell your product. But I think these five items are really simple to remember. And one that I think is one of the most important is invest some money, some in marketing. Marketing of the product is extremely essential these days. For example, make sure you have a good video that shows how your product can be used, how your product adds value, how your product is solving problems, how your product is important to have for everyone. So these are the kind of things that you could do, either add a value, add a video, or add some kind of advertising in some of the social media, email marketing. You could do a whole bunch of things to whole bunch of ways market your product that could actually add value.
Yeah. And creating buzz, getting influencers to, review it and talk about how amazing it is. That's a very popular one these days, right? And it costs money, but does that money translate into, higher profits for your business? And in many cases, hopefully, if the product is, somewhat desirable, it's going to be a yes.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think that what our, let's say, younger entrepreneurs could do, a lot of dropshippings may do this, is test market. Let's say you put a small amount of money on advertising in Facebook ads or Google ads, and then you're just trying to see what happens for maybe a week or two. And is there any kind of interest in this product? Or let's say 5 products, which one there is more interest? And all of a sudden you're going to see that one of the products is going to outperform in terms of sales compared to others. So let's say one of the 5 is just selling at least one a day, even though it's just one a day, but at least it's selling. That means there is interest. Next thing you know, you could go and instead of, $5 a day, now you increase the sales and scale up your ad revenue, maybe to $10 a day or $15 a day, depending on the price of the product you're selling. And then next thing you know, you're actually getting huge amount of traffic to this product and you're selling a great deal very quickly. And this is how you're going to know that if you have a jackpot product, whether or not you're going to scale it up, way up or not. So, if you have a product that is worth, let's say, $20, you're selling for $20 and you're making, say, for example, $15 on that product, and your sales ads or ad revenue is another $5. Well, you're making almost 50% for sure, or maybe at least 100%. So maybe it's worth it. So it all depends on the cost and benefit analysis. And if your profit margin is pretty good, even after you take into account your sales ads, cost of the ads, and shipping in case you have to ship, then, maybe it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lot of food for thought. And so if you're listening and you've ever been looking at, buying an existing product from, let's say, suppliers in China, right? And you're wondering, okay, how do I sell this, but how do I increase those profits? That's 5 really interesting ways to do so. And as you've mentioned, if anybody has any questions about doing this sort of thing, they can totally get in touch.
Absolutely. And I recommend you guys to get in touch with us. There are lots of ways we can definitely help you.
Great. That's some really great advice today, Andrew. Thanks for sharing it with everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast brought to you by the Sofeast Group. We're on a mission to provide you with everything you need to manufacture effectively in Asia, including inspections, auditing, new product development support, contract manufacturing, 3PL warehousing and fulfillment, and much more across Asia's key manufacturing areas. Visit us at sofeast.com, that's SOFEAST.com, to learn more and get help. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, please do rate, review and share, because it will really help others discover us too.